so excited to be joined by one of Bravo's biggest rising stars. This girl is going big places. Emmy Sharrett, thank you so much for joining me today.
How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Look, we have just been chatting away for 20 minutes and then realized we hadn't pressed record because we're going down so many different directions. And I think that ties into maybe some of what we're going to talk about today.
Definitely.
But I'm just so excited. You are absolutely one of the biggest stars of the show, Southern Hospitality, which I'm obsessed with. I think it's the best show on Bravo. And I
Thank you.
an OG Bravo fan, like from 20 plus years ago.
Oh, I love that.
This is like, I can see it. Like this show is just going to, fly. It already has been.
I can feel it too.
Yeah, it's been, but for you, you've had such an intense experience because, in some shows, people kind of phone it in and they're there and they're just excited to be on camera and they're just, cherry picking what they show and how much they share. And I just feel like in some of it, you have had to just kind of be bleeding all over the screen because people have created situations that have caused you to have to be really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been, exposed in a lot of ways to having to share a lot about your personal life, where a lot of people have been able to get away with not as much.
Yes.
So
yes.
How has that felt for you, all of that intensity and that focus on you?
It's crazy when I just look back, funny enough, season one of the first scenes I ever did with Will was a paint and sip. And I have both of our paintings above my mirror in my bathroom that we did. And it's so funny, looking at those every now and then to where we are now, and how much has happened and how crazy it was that I came on season one and I was just Emmy Sharrett, Will's girlfriend, that worked at Republic. And then season two happened and that was a big, crazy, me growing in the company, big come up, wow. And then season three, I never knew, because I'm 19 months sober right now. So I never knew that being sober, you would kind of have to refigure out how to deal with stress and to deal with high intensity situations. And no one prepares you for what reality TV really is going to be like once the camera is completely focused on you. And once you are at the mercy of what essentially your castmates want to depict of you and your life and your relationship and what lies they want to say about you. And, and then once that snowball gets rolling, I'm just screaming at it while it's snowballing next to me. I can't stop it. So, yeah. I mean, for me, it was a really, really, really intense season. And, I think the viewers, unfortunately, only get so much of each of us. There's 45 minutes in an episode. Unfortunately, they don't get to really see who we are. And now I think I know why so many Bravolebs start a podcast, because it's let me actually explain a little bit about me. Let me do a little get to know me. And I feel like this is kind of what this opportunity is for me with me coming on your podcast, because, I saw you a little bit on, talking about me and have you've listened to my other podcast I was on where I talked about my ADHD and my sensory processing and getting overstimulated. And I think that is a huge part of who I am and a huge part of my reactiveness on this season. And I've always been like that. You just didn't always see it. I had moments like that season two. I had moments like that season one. It wasn't a big enough of a magnifying glass on it that I was oh, we don't need to include that. That doesn't, so on and so forth. But it definitely was a really intense season for me.
Oh, 100%. And look, what you were talking about before, I was a guest on the podcast Unhinged and On Camera, and they do little kind of deep dives on different stars of shows or on episodes, and they were doing an episode on you. And so
Oh.
I was invited to come on, knowing I'm a big fan of the show and that
Hmm.
I'm a therapist in my other life. And
Oh, you're a therapist?
yeah, that's my whole other world.
Oh, wait, so is it like for like kids with ADHD, or just like any therapy?
I work 3 days a week at a school, working
Okay.
with kids and their families. A lot of them are neurodiverse, maybe neurotypical. It could be any range of things that present
Neurodivergent,
in the
all the
school setting.
above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I work in private practice, and that's more so with adults.
Okay.
So I'm not an ADHD specialist, but as we talked about off camera, there's ADHD in my family, and I'm
Yes.
learning. It's been an eye opener being someone who works with kids with ADHD and
Hmm.
having all the answers and being able to support families like that, and then living it and having absolutely no clue what I'm doing and completely losing my mind.
It's just a lot of patience, but like knowing that your kid loves you more than anything else in the world, like you're like their safe spot. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing more safe. Like let me tell you, there's plenty of times during the season when I was just thinking like my inner child truly was coming out. There's times where I'd be like, I just want my mom. Like
Yeah.
at 27, 20, or it's 26 when we were filming, but like it just like that inner, like vulnerable, like overwhelmed, overstimulated, where you can't regulate your emotions and you just feel like you're a kid again,
Yeah.
and you just feel so exposed, and you're just like, the only thing safe in the world right now would be my mom. And it's
Yeah.
because like I can see with you as well, but like having your mom like understand you, have the patience, know how to parent you at the same time though without giving you too much rope, like just learning about you is incredible. Like
Yeah. But you know what? I fail at all of those things every single day because it's so hard. You need that patience and you need that energy. And, like if this was my third child, I think I would handle it so much better. But I'm going all through all of this with my first child, where
oh, this
everything
is your
is kind of a
first?
first. Yeah. And he's my, everything is new with him. All the others, I've done it all before because I've seen it all before.
Yeah.
So it's a massive learning curve for me as well, and a big wake up to the difference between knowing things on paper and then living it.
Yeah.
But the first time I heard about you, so that's what I was on that podcast, and I had just heard you on the Vile Files, where
Hmm.
you revealed, all of these sensory issues and ADHD, and I was like, oh my God, I see her, I get her, all of this makes sense. And of
Yep.
course, I have been all over the blogs and all over the, social media, Bravo social media pages, and everyone had an opinion on you and your meltdowns, quote unquote. And is Emmy on something? She's clearly, A,
It's
B, or
her it's
C.
her toxic relationship. She's acting like this
Yes.
out of the blue. Newsflash, it's
Yes.
not out of the blue. This isn't
Yeah.
this isn't my relationship. This is my my environment being so overstimulating. So
Yeah.
I don't think people understand the production behind it, in the sense of like I can realize like in a scene if the lighting might be wrong, or if like my mic is somewhere and that it's muffled, and like they might like have to stop it, be like, hey, wait, we can't hear you or something. And like I'm so overly aware, or like my mic pack on my back is slipping, or like if something's uncomfortable. And it's like I definitely like can film my apartment no problem, but it's like
Mm.
when you like talk about, when you like get to me in a very public setting, where it's, to me, like at work it's supposed to be more professional. Also, for a little backstory, I was sick with strep throat that day. I did take 2 NyQuil at like 3 in the morning, and then I went to work at like noon. And so I was already feeling all sorts of whack going into that shift. And then just everything just kind of tumbled on each other. And the craziest part, I don't know like if maybe you see this with your son or not, but for me, I don't suppress my emotions, clearly. I definitely feel them all at once. And I went home after that shift, showered, did my makeup, and went to Father's Day dinner that night. like
Wow.
2 hours later, no problem. Like, no problem. Like, hello, like just how I am right now. I was like, okay, that's all done. I'm out of that environment. I'm okay. Like, so for me, it's like, I definitely, like, so when I come back the next day and I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. People are like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, like, I got it all out. I'm fine. Like, I'm not feeling that anymore. And like, people be like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I just don't, like, that's who I am. Like, I move on from it. So that's what I think is hard for me too, is that I do move on from it. So having a job where you don't quite get to move on from things quite quickly, you have to kind of keep readdressing everything over and over and over and over again. I definitely start to get like, I get for anyone, it's hard for anyone, but for me especially, it's just like my ability to get overstimulated and what that triggers inside me was already hard to control. And I think, you probably have researched this with ADHD, but people with ADHD are a lot more likely to have addictive personalities and use alcohol to cope because it calms their brain down, and they're big weed smokers, and that's all great and fine. But, for me, it's like, okay, I've been, drinking since I was in high school ish. Like, I mean, like Natty Light in high school. I was drinking beer in high school, if that. But like, it's like now I've got to redefine and reprogram my brain to like figure out different tricks and ways other than grabbing a glass of wine when I'm overstimulated in an environment that like I'm not in control of, such as when we're filming. And obviously, I had a hard time doing that this season. I would just start crying and running away. Which is kind of like my revert to my childhood. I freak out, run away, like go like call Will, like which used to be my mom. And it's just like, get me out of here, go. But you know, I'm definitely like not alone with this. I mean, I know I can speak for Will when it comes to this as well. Will has ADD and probably a little something else. But he himself is we're both a little neurodivergent or like with each other. And we definitely both get overstimulated. We both like sensory sometimes, like we just cannot be touched. Like it will just like overstimulate us. Like we just understand each other super well. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially like you can't grasp that just through, especially this last season of watching us. And, having a partner that understands me and knows me and like knows like when to give me space, like, at Republic, when I looked at him, he knew to walk away and to give me space. Like that was the smart thing to do. Like he can like we can read each other. Like I mean, when you have a partner, like you just and I kept referring to him as like my best friend because like before anything else, like Will is my best friend because he understands me, and unfortunately, so do like the other cast members. They know exactly who I am. They know I would get overstimulated. They know I would react. The ones that have been doing this with me for years. Everyone, they've experienced this firsthand with me. They've seen my freakouts many of times before in 2022, 2023. Like this isn't the first one. And so the fact that it was kind of used as propaganda for exciting moments on television was tough and out of my control. But at least, I mean, for me, like, again, I've been able to kind of move on from that. I'm aware of it. I've talked to Maddie a lot about it because I'm also like I said, 19 months sober. And I've talked to her and she's like, it's really hard to, Maddie had a lot of her own like breakdown season 2 and she had some even season 3. And it's like, when you're sober, I don't think people like realize like we wake up and we're innately happier and we are more proactive. And like I do it because I love the way I feel and I'm happier, but it is harder in some situations with like, I can't just have a glass of wine and zone out and not pay attention to what's going on. Like you're always over hyperly aware. You're always aware. And like, a lot of these situations where all these group events happen or group dinners, they happen towards the end of the night. So everyone around me is drunk and everyone's annoying. And like, I'm aware of that. And then everyone has an attitude or a sass to them or some like, and it's just kind of like, I'm still the same me that I was when I woke up this morning. So it's it's hard to navigate. But
Yeah.
you know, hopefully if we get renewed for another season,
I mean,
um,
come on. When?
I
When you
know,
get
I know.
renewed.
When I will be able to navigate this a lot better this season, you
Well, it's
know.
really interesting what you talk about in terms of having to find new ways to regulate yourself
Still
without
figuring that one
alcohol.
out.
I mean, that's, you know, like I think we all need to find new ways. Even if I think about myself as a parent now of 3 kids, I am dysregulated in a way that's so different to when I had 1 kid or when I had no kids. Like the stress and the pressure in my life has increased and
Hmm.
my tolerance and ability to cope has decreased. And I
Hmm.
imagine it's a similar kind of thing. You're in this high pressure environment. There is all kinds of crazy attention and focus and storyline and production and all of this stuff that's this perfect storm, which would just be activating and triggering you in so many different ways. And newly sober and having to kind of navigate that. It is, I mean, once I knew
A
all of that
lot.
part of the picture with you, everything just made sense. And I could just see, if we were to rewatch the season, you would be able to, pick exactly the moment where Emmy is totally overstimulated and needs to be like her own little space and left alone. But also, to be fair, there's a lot of attention on your, let's call them freakouts or meltdowns or whatever. But as you say, so many others were also having meltdowns and freakouts, and there weren't conversations about like, what is she on, what is this, what is that. Like, I feel like you
What?
did get a bit more of an
And people,
unfair.
I mean, for me, it's also just kind of like, you know, everyone, I saw the comments, you know, I saw the majority of them would be on like my Instagram platform, my own
Yeah,
comments.
yeah,
And, you know, for me, it's just hard because um, my favorite one was like, oh my God, I've never seen bigger pupils in my life. And I'm just kind of like,
yeah,
one, I have green eyes. Um, if I'm and like right now my pupils are probably a little bigger because it's
mhm,
dimmer in my apartment.
yeah,
Like I don't know how else to explain it. Some of the places we're filming, it's dim. If I'm outside, my pupils are smaller. Like
yeah,
don't know what else to say. People be like, "Oh, she's on something." I'm like, what? It's so funny. This is the first time I've ever heard about my pupils like dilating or being bigger. In my 27 years, none of my
yeah,
friends have ever said anything to me about it growing up.
hmm,
No one in college ever said anything to me about it. Like no one I've ever dated, my mom, my dad, my siblings.
yeah,
All of a sudden, I'm like, what is don't you learn this when you're a kid? Your pupils get bigger and dark and
hmm,
smaller and light. Like, what do you
yeah,
mean? Like, of course, like I also know what pupils look like if you're on drugs, but
yeah.
like that's
It's a
that's a
different
different
thing.
story. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
but to me, I'm just like people love to speculate, and it's like they instantly go to, oh, it's substance abuse, it's Adderall abuse, and
mm,
I'm like, no, like I've been prescribed this since I was 5. I've been
yeah,
on the same medication since I've started television, since I've been on reality TV. I've been
yeah,
on the same dose if I'm filming,
yeah.
if I'm even taking it some days, just so that I don't feel overstimulated. Some days I need to get like stuff done. Some days are a little bit more emotional than others. So I'm like, I'm not taking that, or else I'll
Hmm.
hyper focus on those emotions,
Yeah. And
that
one
which
of
can
the other,
happen.
yeah, and one of the other like features of ADHD can certainly be like a sensitivity to other people's kind of, there's this idea around rejection sensitivity, and that's a very real thing. And it can
Mm-hmm.
be you could be very easily kind of dragged into this feeling of like people are against me or attacking me or don't like me or
A hundred
whatever it
percent.
is. Yeah, and that is something, when the focus was on your relationship the whole time, you know, even without ADHD, how could you not be feeling all of those things and then reacting to it,
Completely.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, all the above. Since I was a kid, I don't know if spoke about this before we started recording or not.
Yeah.
After we started recording or not, but when I was a kid, I was also diagnosed with sensory processing issues.
Hmm.
So I would have my mom would have to dim the lights really low in the morning. Like I had to have the red plate. Like my clothes had to be tight. Like I had to have my socks perfectly, or else my mom would call it the dying princess. Like when you stiffen your body and you do like the dying princess, like as like a kid, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
It would be
I
like the
love
dying
that.
princess on the floor is what my mom would call it, which you could also call me doing that a little bit this past season. But my that's a huge thing for me. And like obviously as I've gotten older, I've been able to, mitigate that. I it's just you don't grow out of it. You just get older and you become an adult and you just learn how to work with it. Like I'm wearing silk pajamas right now because
Mhm.
I would never wear I would never wear wool pajamas like because I know I'd
Yes.
hate that.
Yeah.
But it's my mom did an excellent job on I never felt, you know, different per se, because I feel like a lot of people I don't know if a lot of people actually had ADHD, but a lot of people just started getting diagnosed to take Adderall, like prescribed
Mhm.
Adderall. And so I think the trendiness of ADHD started to kind of happen, but you can see a huge difference in people who take Adderall who need it and don't need it. Like people
Mm.
who take Adderall and talk, 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 and are super hyperactive, you do not need Adderall. Like if you take
Mhm.
Adderall, you're supposed to mellow out,
Yeah.
calm down, focus, be more quiet. You're not supposed to be a jitterbox. Like that's
Mhm.
the biggest tell sign to me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, as you said in that other interview, you were diagnosed really young. So obviously your parents were really proactive. They were right onto it, especially, 27 years ago. It's not like today where
And I'm a
everyone,
girl too. So
yeah,
like
yeah,
ADHD is not found that young in girls. So
yeah,
it must have been very prominent for my parents
yeah.
to assume it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you talked a little bit about having been on medication since that age. And, I think I would love for the show to give you that opportunity to kind of go into that a little bit because I think
absolutely.
you're probably not even the only one on the cast with ADHD, whether people knew or not. But it's like, such a common, uh, diagnosis these days. It's not like you would be this outlier of weirdness.
No, not at all. I also just think a lot of times, unfortunately, people is like, I think something that kids are told is, oh, you'll outgrow ADHD, you'll outgrow your medication.
Mm.
And that's the hope. But realistically, it's not something that I'm dependent on. Like I can easily go a week without taking my medication, no problem. But it's just something that in my day-to-day life it helps so much, and when you find the right medication, you find the right balance, and you find the right thing that works for you, and you find the one that doesn't strip your personality away, and you just my mom never gave me my medication on the weekends. I never took it over the summer. I never took it over the weekends, and I never took it over any breaks. So for 3 months over the summer I would never take it. Every weekend I would never take it. It was only Monday through Friday during the school days that I would take it. So I mean my mom was very good at my entire life having me, every year there's 3 months I just wasn't taking it.
Yeah.
So my mom was very good at like adapting me to being on and off the medication. And then you have all the little breaks in between that I wasn't taking it. Spring break, Christmas break. Um, but and then once I got to college, I mean, if I only had classes 3 days a week, I probably was only taking it 3 days a week.
Mm.
Um, but you know, I feel like in this day and age, a lot of people will be like, oh, I have ADHD or like I take Adderall. And it's their story about how they stopped taking it and how they are this. And I'm like, that's just not going to be like my story quite yet. When I get pregnant, it will be. But like right now, it's like, it's a part of my life. It's something that helps regulate me. It's just like anyone else that takes medication. And, I do everything that I can to help regulate myself. Like I drink magnesium every night. I have my magnesium drink
Mm.
somewhere around here, but I drink magnesium every night. Because melatonin used to give me crazy dreams, so I don't really love taking melatonin. But I always take like a bunch of magnesium at night. I sauna, I cold plunge, I work out because I have excess energy. And I also think a lot of people think that kids with ADHD are automatically always hyper, but there's a lot of almost like, I want to say like paralyzing times that kids have with ADHD, where you almost like have ADHD paralysis, where you're just lying in bed and you know you have so much to do, but you just can't do any of it. And it's just like this
Mm.
overwhelming feeling of like expectations you have for yourself that you just like physically cannot do. And like we work best under stress, and like we are horrible at meeting deadlines. We like run late, forget your keys. Like those are your typical ADHD things. For me, it's I always needed my paper to be due at midnight for me to start it then at like 3 in the afternoon. Or
Yes.
when the sun went
Yes.
down. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I had a
Yes.
quiz due at 11:59, I do that quiz at 11:30. Like
Yes.
I was like, I had to work under pressure. And so my mom
Mhm.
always had me playing sports, you know, all through middle school, high school, always played sports. The busier I was, the less trouble I could get in. So
Yeah. Are you aware of what the symptoms were like for you as a young kid? Because I know a lot of people listening might, are people outside, uh, and in the real world who feel uncomfortable about kids being on medication. And I medicate my child.
I love it.
And
I'm so happy my parents did it.
yeah. And like, it's just like any other thing. If your kid had a need for medication because of a medical illness or anything, diabetes or whatever, you wouldn't withhold treatment. You would
Hmm.
give them what they need. So it's,
Yeah,
in my mind, it's the same thing. It's just kind of had a bad rap because,
completely.
stimulant.
And I know like now my mom says like, oh, I wish I didn't give you like red food dye and like, go like whatever, Go-Gurts or, fruit
Yeah.
by the foot and stuff. And, I know diet definitely can help. Diet and exercise can help a lot. But when it comes to having ADHD, I'm sober. I have a very clean diet. I exercise all the time and I still have ADHD. So
Yes.
it's like, I do think, I will backtrack a little bit and say I did not ever suffer with anxiety and depression as a kid. Like I never felt depressed. I never was depressed. My mom probably tied my like anxiety into like ADHD, but I never was like an anxious person up
Mhm.
until about like 6 years ago. I feel like like in college and stuff, I feel like it just kind of
Mm.
like, I don't know, just like slowly started happening as my brain started developing more and more. I feel like I just started losing that impulsivity in me, and started becoming more aware of the world. And so it made you more anxious because I'm like, with kids, you don't really think about cause and effect.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, as your brain's developing, you're like, oh, all these bad things can happen. And it's like, as I got older, I kind of became a little bit more anxious,
Mm.
like flying on planes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I'm so happy my parents put me on medication as a kid. It has helped me tremendously with school. It is night and day. I am so happy that my parents, knew when I was 4, essentially, that I had it. I'm so happy that it helped me through school. And I know so many kids who they wouldn't be able to do school. And I think a lot of parents see that it's kind of been like this trending thing that kids like anyone will take it because yeah, it makes you hyper focused whether you need it or not. But there's kids that definitely need it. And I remember my mom like used to, like I went to a few like child psychologists when I was younger and they described it to me. And it's just like talking about like you have like two like neurons, I think, and the Adderall just kind of like connects common
Mm.
sense almost.
Yes. Yes.
And so it's like something that like I need it.
Yeah.
And for any parent out there that's like, thinking about it, I mean, you kind of also just have to trust that you know your kid well enough to know and like have a good enough like relationship with them that they'll express to you if they really hate the way they feel. Like I know with some kids, like certain medications will make them feel really depressed. They really hate the way this makes them feel. Like maybe their dose is too high. There's a ton of things, but I'm super happy that I have that my parents, had me on that at such a young age because also starting so young, I learned how to it never was going to be like a substance abuse to me. It was never something that like I grew up learning how like with this drug in my system. So I'm not addicted to it at all. Like it's
Yeah.
so I mean that's my two cents. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that actually is something that's useful if you start something younger, that it makes it less
Absolutely.
addictive. But
Well, I think what you're saying is, you understood that this was a medication that helped you and your brain to
yes.
function in a way that meant you could succeed and do the
Hmm.
things you needed to do. We make kids go to school. You have to sit in a classroom all day. You have to hit
Awful.
deadlines, and so, to operate in this neurotypical world, we have to find ways for neurodivergent brains to do that. And, you know,
Yes.
it it's the reality, unfortunately, that this is the world we live in, unless you're, in some alternative program, but there aren't that many of those. And it's the,
I I went to a more I went to a school called Woodland in first and second grade, and it was for, it was more for kids like me with like ADHD. Some kids have like dyslexia, just like some like more like softer learning differences. Um, and it was, I mean, it was a great school for me in like first, second grade because
yes.
they were super hands-on, super visual, active, breaks. My mom said that we could take our shoes off and they would have grass underneath our desk that we could like rub our feet on,
Wow.
like in all the, yeah,
Amazing.
which was amazing. And I remember like a lot of my, when I moved to London going into third grade, I lived in London in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, and it was an international school. So it was like the American school. It's called TASIS. It was originally the American school in Switzerland, but then it became the American school in Surrey. But all of a sudden my like, student center where like, kids with ADHD, you have a whole bunch of kids there that are also learning a second language. Like it was so much more diverse than just like your American school system with, learning services or like, special center. Um, so that was awesome to learn. And it was a smaller school too. It was like a 70-person class.
Wow. Okay.
But, my entire life, I've always had, 50% extended time on tests. I've always had access to the front row. I remember in high school, I always got to take a test alone in my own room. So I'd have no
Mm.
distractions.
Yes.
Um, so, I mean, those have always like the extras that you get. People think it's extras, it's necessities, are
Yeah.
so helpful.
Well, that's right. I mean, this is how you scaffold students and support them through, whatever it is that they need. And these are all strategies that have helped you along the way. And it's not just the medication. You also still need that support because,
Hmm.
I mean, all of our brains work differently. But if we know that there
Yes.
are things we can do to support kids, to get through the requirements that are put upon them,
That
then
you
we're
have to do.
really,
You have to go to
yeah,
school. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
you have had this like really interesting life. I know you were born in Atlanta, is that right?
I was
And
born in
then,
Atlanta, but I moved to Philadelphia when I was 16 months old.
okay. And then
Hmm.
you were living in London.
Hmm.
And did you go back to Philadelphia after that? And then,
So when I was 18 months, we moved to Philadelphia. We were right in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And then when I was 8 years old, we moved to London. I think like 2006 to 2010. And then we moved back to the suburbs of Philadelphia in 2010. And then I graduated from high school. Bradner High School is where I graduated from. And then my senior year of high school, my dad got a job offer here in Charleston. And it was like April of my senior year. And I remember I was supposed to go to High Point University, which is in North Carolina. And my dad was like, hey, like, how do you feel about just going to the community college, like in Charleston for like a semester and then transferring into the College of Charleston? Because admissions were closed and like my parents were like, we want you closer by. We're going to be down there. Like I originally had like looked at College of Charleston, but my parents didn't like, it was just, they didn't think it was going to be a good fit. And then all of a sudden, like they were moving there and they were like, how do you feel about this? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I had like three of my best guy friends from high school going to the College of Charleston. So my family literally went from Atlanta, Philly, London, Philly, Charleston. So they
yes.
live right next to Colonial Lake here in Charleston. They live a few blocks down that way. So I've also had my family here this entire time.
Wow.
Yeah. So my parents got
Okay.
to see me all of last summer, all the time.
Wow.
They
What
were my
how
support system.
what's their take on I mean, I imagine if my child was going through what you went through on the show last year, I don't know how I would feel about throwing them back into the lion's den. I mean, what are
They're
their
my parent.
thoughts?
They're fine with it, in the sense of like they know I can handle it. They
Yeah.
know I get. I don't like being lied about. I hate liars. I hate
Mhm.
liars. Like I can own up to anything I've ever done. I can own up to anything my partner's ever done. I can own up to reality. I hate liars. I hate liars. And so for me, a lot of this was just like, my parents and I have always known my dad's smart. My dad's when this is going on, my dad was kind of like, what did you expect? I was like, oh, okay. Because it's reality TV. Like,
Yeah.
if you've ever watched it, it's just kind of like, it's not ABC Kids. It's just
Yeah.
like, but for me, I think, it's not for the weak, but it is such a cool opportunity. It is so unique. And for me, I've already shared so much of my life with the world, and I still have so much more to share. Like, there's still
Mm.
so much more growth for me to do. And, that was just a part of who I am. And
Yeah.
that was not my fondest memories, but ironically, you know, it was probably Will and I, it was the happiest time for us, which sounds crazy, but
Wow.
for us as dating each other, because we had so much toxicity around us, we were like this with each other, and we were so in love, and we were so
Mm.
glued at the hip all summer. I mean, we did not go one night without sleeping next to each other for 3 months. Like
Mhm.
we were just so it's us against whatever all this bullshit is.
Yeah.
And I, unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to really show that to the world.
Mm.
And I'm hoping that, moving forward, I can show that to the world,
Yeah.
that I am dating my best friend, that this
Mm.
is like my person. Like, this is like, I feel like best friend just kind of like, it's obviously he's my boyfriend, but it's also like, before all that, it's my best friend. And like,
Mhm.
that's what I, love so much. But, my parents love Will.
Mhm.
They love Will. I love Will's parents. His parents live right over on Johns Island. So both of our parents are here in Charleston. So we have like both of our family units here, which is night and day. Because Will's family, his dad has his law firm right on Broad Street.
Mhm.
So we would go and we would film and do a scene, and then we'd go over to his dad's office and we'd be like, yappy, 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 like, or then like
Yeah.
we'd go get dinner with my mom and my dad, and we'd be like, yappy, 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 like tell them everything
Yeah.
going on. And it was both of us, like me and Will, or at least Will didn't watch this past season, but I watched the show with his mom, and like, that's how close we are though. But
Wow.
my mom was a model for 25 years. She kind of did like, an extravagant job, which is, different in the sense it's kind of similar to reality TV, where it's kind of like my mom understands it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
She understands reality TV. She understands how it works, and from her own perspective. And she thinks it's a really cool opportunity. And she just thinks that, I'm still happy and healthy, and Will and I are still stronger than ever. And it's kind of like, if you can go through that and you just come out on the other side stronger, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because all it did was make Will and I get so much closer and fall even
Mhm.
more in love. And, you know, hated what I had to go through to get there. But, I think reality TV is definitely a place where you can put your relationship to the test. It will
Yeah.
definitely make or break your relationship. And
Yes.
ironically, it made mine. So, against all the
Mm.
tests. So,
Well,
I
you
think,
obviously have
yeah.
very thick skin, to be able to relive it all, to live it and then relive it all watching it, and to even be looking at the comments, which you can't avoid on your
I
social
could turn them
media.
off, but, I'm not the one who's commenting on someone who they don't really know's Instagram, the crazy things. I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it doesn't, like, I don't, and my mom will text me like being like, yip, 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 and I'm like, just ignore it, mom. Like, whatever they said, like, who cares? Like, I
Yeah.
don't care. And I think someone once commented, like, wow, you're so brave for keeping your comments on. And I'm like,
Mm.
I'm not the one who's gonna, like, it doesn't get to me. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I feel like I also just see so many people on reality TV and, like, you know, you kind of know what you sign up for because
Mm.
I have the opportunity to watch Summer House. I can watch Southern Charm. I can watch Below
Yeah.
Deck. I can watch Vanderpump Rules. I can go on all their social medias. I can see all, and I
Yeah.
see what they all go through. So to not think that we wouldn't go through that is just naive. So for me, I
Yeah.
kind of was prepared for all of this. Doesn't mean it didn't sting, but
Mm.
at least I was more prepared, to put
Yeah.
it that
You went
way.
in eyes open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for
So,
sure.
so do you think, and I don't know, maybe you can't talk about this at all, but do you think should there be a season 4 that Will and you would come back?
In a perfect world, I think reality TV is for some people, not for everyone. And I do think I have a future on reality TV. I just don't know how many lawyers in reality TV. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're kind of like two magnets. They kind of fight each other. I don't really
Yeah.
think trying to pursue, like, once Will graduate, like, Will's about to go into his third year of law school. He's going to have a bunch of jobs that he's going to be taking on this summer. I mean, he might be here, might be in Colombia. I don't know when we're going to start filming either, so we could not start till later when Will's actually back at school.
Yeah.
I just think, like, after watching Will go through this year, mind you, while in his second year of law school, so while
Mm.
this is all airing, Will is trying to study and stay
Yeah.
at, he's at the top of his class. He's
Wow.
crushing it.
Yeah.
He's in the top 10%. He's on law review. Like, he is trying to, he knows his potential and he's trying to keep all of that going while having the world hate him. So
Yeah.
it's hard. And I don't think I'd ever want him to go through that again. And
Yeah.
there's just, if we look at the seasons past, there's nothing that would kind of give us reassurance that it wouldn't happen again with him.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, what's the saying in gambling? Like, something about like leave, like, even like, if you're down $200, don't go and bet $400 just to be down
Mm.
$600. Like,
Yes.
take what you have and go. And I
Yes.
think for me, that's kind of like where I'm at with Will. And I just think it would be naive of us to, you know, not think that this couldn't happen again.
Yeah.
So as much as we would pray that it wouldn't, um,
Yeah.
and I just also don't think that there's enough hours in the day for Will to do it. Like, there just isn't. There's not
Mm.
enough time, I don't think. But I think he would still probably be a part of it to some degree of my, because he would still be a part of my life. But,
Yeah.
the show also is really centered around working at Republic,
Mm-hmm.
and Will's in law school now. So I think it just also makes the most sense. Those who are still working at Republic would be, the main cast members of the show.
You know what? When I think about you and your story, I think about how much pleasure everyone else derives from talking about you and their opinions of you and their opinions of your relationship, and that's like
Yeah.
their whole storyline.
Yep.
So, I wonder what happens
Yeah.
when the cameras go away. Like, do these people
Still talk about
continue
me?
talking
Yes.
about you? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And you
Okay.
know what's so funny? Uh, I'm in my pajamas. I'm usually watching like Netflix.
Yeah.
I'm eating like beef jerky, or I'm having like a Greek yogurt and a fruit bowl. I go to
Yeah.
bed before midnight. I wake up, I work out, I hang out with Michaels, I see my parents, I visit Will. That's all I do. I don't
Mm-hmm.
drink. I don't really go out. I mind my business, yet somehow
It's all about you.
they still find, I'm just kind of like, how to become boring. Like, but it's just, it's kind of, once said, it's so funny. I think back to the beginning of like season one when we first met with production. I remember looking at the, like, I can't even remember who it was, I remember just being like, I hope one day my life gets so boring that you guys actually don't want to film me anymore. Because anyone that watches reality TV, your life kind of always has to be a little crazy for you to constantly be interesting and be like,
Mm.
and that to me sounded exhausting. So I was like, but as you get older, obviously, like I've seen people like stay plenty interesting without having like crazy lives. You
Yeah.
become successful and you start, you do your own thing and people are like, wow, that's great. But, there's always bits and pieces that people still jab and go for in your
Yeah.
success. The more successful you are, the more people will want to bring you down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's true. We call that the tall poppy syndrome here. It's like you
yeah.
always want to cut down the tallest, the thing that's flourishing and flying the highest. You cut
Yeah.
it down because God forbid
That's
anyone
so
should be
funny.
better tthan anyone else, you know?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just kind of like, I will, do my best to mind my business. I kind of just, want to focus on myself, my life. I hang out with the people that nourish me. Michael's from the TV show. He's like one of my closest friends still.
Mm.
I was just up in New York for a few days with Maddie and Joe. We had such a great time. Those are like, Love Gracefully. Those are kind of people on the show that nourish me. And,
Mhm.
you know, I really hope people like the other people find happiness and stuff because I want them to find stuff to talk about within their lives and like find interest within themselves, instead of with me. But I guess reality TV though is kind of all about being in each other's business. So it's kind of one can dream. But no, I'm actually excited for the summer. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see what this new year brings. I'm excited to, see if we have any new cast members. Um, it's all exciting things. I'm excited to see, I wonder if there's gonna be a BravoCon this year too, which would be
Mm, I
fun.
think I think there is meant to be, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think
So
I
that
read
yeah, that
something
would be
about
like
that.
it's like
Yeah.
in October or November. But
Yes.
like all the other opportunities that come with it, those are also super exciting. And meeting all the other, I was at the Us Weekly Reality TV Star Style Awards in New York City, and you had a bunch of other reality TV stars there, and it's just so nice being in a room full of people that understand what you're going through or what you've
Yes.
gone through because it's such
Yeah.
a unique experience. So it's so fun. It's like, oh my God, you understand what this is like, and I can talk to you about it. And so it's
Hmm.
refreshing
Yeah.
meeting all those people.
Amazing and exciting. If you are
Yeah.
someone that watches the shows as well, I bet it must be really cool to actually meet some of these people in
Oh
real
yeah, it's
life.
super exciting. And then also being like, oh my gosh, you went through all that and you're still like on the show and you're super successful and like you're happy. I haven't met her personally, but someone that I love to watch is like Stassi from
Mm-hmm.
Vanderpump.
Yep.
And I'm just kind of like, wow, you did all that. And then you found your husband and you're living your best life. And I
Yeah.
think she just like starred in the last season of Vanderpump Villa,
Mm-hmm.
like in Italy. But
Yeah.
it's fun watching some of these reality TV stars that we watched on TV from like 2014, 2016 to now. And I'm like, okay, well, the
Yeah.
future is looking bright.
Absolutely. The future is so bright with you, Emmy. I feel like you could go so many places and I love that you're able to put aside all of these really challenging experiences that you've been through which are so real as well. It's not like fake fighting and fake storylines. Like this is your real life
So
side of
raw.
it.
It was
Yeah.
all my emotions were so raw. Like
Yeah.
you could have not ever scripted that. That
Yeah.
couldn't have been more organic from me.
Yeah. And iconic, the mascara scene. Oh my God.
So I wear mascara on my bottom eyelashes, and
Yeah.
I am going to guess like I have really long bottom eyelashes. I also
Yeah.
was crying really hard, but like, a lot of people are like, I don't, my mascara doesn't really like that when I cry. And I'm like, well, do you have like 2, 3 layers of mascara under your eyes? It's also
Yeah.
like one blink and like it's going down. I mean, I could feel it like
Yeah.
going down my neck at some points.
Oh
Like
my
it
God.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
Hey,
Yeah.
listen, it worked for Erica Jane on Beverly
Yeah.
Hills. I think it has worked to your advantage in this situation. If there can be a silver lining from your pain, these
Yes.
moments were excellent TV.
You know, it's funny if it's funny watching them back, honestly. I've seen some like really funny edits of them and I'm kind of like that's hilarious. Cuz to me it just like a lot of these things were just moments. Some of them were obviously
Mm.
painful, but when it's just me and my own little freakouts, I can laugh at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you've shared a lot about, what it's been like living with ADHD as a young kid and now as an adult. And I just think so many people listening will be able to relate to that on a personal level or because someone they love, has similar, challenges. And I really hope that you get more of an opportunity to put that front and center so people can, you know, give you a lot more respect and understanding when you have. I'm sure there'll be moments again when you become overstimulated
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
react. And, maybe people will see the whole picture instead of coming up with their own theories.
I would definitely love to talk about it more. It's so funny as I'm like just sitting here, I'm just kind of like, I feel like a lot of people with ADHD have like random food fixations. We have little hobbies we pick up for like 6 weeks. We have like like, so many little things that I've picked up on that people with like ADD and ADHD, like are little tendencies that we have where it's like we're so randomly organized in one thing and so disorganized somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, I definitely hope this season I'll definitely have a lot more opportunity to talk and expand on that and kind of just like give more insight to that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with all of this, hopefully coming back into play in the summer, what can we expect from you, or what would you like to see happen for you in the coming year?
Um, I, but there's an obvious one, but I feel like it's kind of like it's been talked about so much.
Does it
Um,
have anything to do with this?
yes. I bet there is a lot of possibilities with my relationship moving forward. For me as a woman, it is not within my control. Um, I, will keep anything that I've heard to myself right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because if it's coming from me, it kind of just feels like a broken record. If it came from Will, it would feel like authentic and oh wow. But you're definitely gonna get to see a lot of probably my love life, but a different version of it this summer. I would love to actually have my older sister on the show. She hasn't been on it. I've had both my younger sisters on it, but my older sister, she lives in Atlanta. She has 4 kids herself. They're
Wow.
6, 4, 2, and 9 months
Oh
old.
my God. She's a hero.
She's 31. Um,
Whoa.
it should be 32 in like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Um, but we're 5 years apart. Um, she hasn't been on any of the seasons yet, so I'd love to have her come on. I'm still working at Republic. I've become really close with Maddie, so I'd love to like shine more light into that. I can't really tell. There's definitely it's going to be a really good season, at least probably for me. But I'm gonna let the viewers just wait and see because it probably won't even air until you know late winter of next year. So
Mm.
I mean, whatever happens this summer, unfortunately, we probably won't see for about 10 more months. But the anticipation will be
Yeah.
good,
Yeah. Well, I
and
personally
hopefully,
can't
yeah,
wait. I can't wait. And I
it's gonna
just
be
hope
good.
we
Maybe
get
we'll
to
be able
see.
to. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you. What were you
you go.
saying?
You go ahead. You go
Oh
ahead.
no, I was just saying maybe we'll be able to give some like little teasers and whatnot at BravoCon.
Yes. And
Yeah.
stories seem to come out. We always kind of hear about big things happening on shows kind of before they air.
Oh
But
yeah.
I just hope we get to see more of your sparkle and more joy and more of the great things going on in your life and less of that
Yes.
negative attention. you know?
Yes, fingers crossed. I'm hoping, I feel like reality TV is a kind of like a roller coaster. What comes up must go down, what goes down, then will go up. So I feel like this is my up season. So
Yes.
I'm fingers crossed that's how it goes for me. I've, I can't control what people will say about me, but, I'll do my best to just have a positive attitude and, just keep walking away from any conversations that don't suit me.
Love it. Use those strategies, girl.
I'm gonna have like a stress ball with me everywhere I go.
Yes,
I'm gonna be like, I
exactly.
need my stress ball.
Yes, I love it. Whatever
Yeah,
works. Whatever works.
exactly.
Oh, well, I know it's really late over there. So I just want to say, it's like almost 20 past 10,
I'm
I
I'm
think.
like, yeah, it's 10:17 here, which for me
Yeah.
working in food and bev, 10:17, it feels probably more like 7 p.m. to you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, okay, because I
Yeah.
feel bad putting you
Oh,
putting you up into this late time.
oh my gosh. No, no, no. I didn't even go to bed. I worked at Republic last night. I didn't go to bed until like 4 in the morning anyways. So then I didn't wake up
Wow.
until almost noon today. So then it's
Okay.
like I'm, I've been awake for 10 hours essentially. So I'm doing
Yeah.
it just fine.
Okay, great. Okay. Because,
Yes.
yeah, these time differences, trying to calculate all of that always gets a little bit
I'm a
tricky.
night owl, so it's all good.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just, is there anything else that, you feel like you want people to know or to understand about your experience and, I guess even particularly from the ADHD perspective, we have talked about it quite a bit, but if there's anything you feel like we've missed out and people might need to know.
I think there's a lot of different tiers to ADHD. I think ADHD probably differs a lot between men and women. I think for me as a woman, if it's any consolation, the fact that my parents were able to diagnose me with ADHD at 5 years old means that it's very prevalent in me. My parents did everything as best they could, and I think they did it almost pretty damn perfect as far as they, diagnosing me, how to raise me. I mean, my mom was tough as nails, do not get me wrong. I mean,
Mhm.
I feared my mother, but I loved my mother. That was my safe space at the same time. It's like a respect that I learned from my mom. But
Mm.
you know, patience is, there's a difference between patience and like discipline. And my mom was very good at
Yes.
having patience, but knowing like when to discipline.
Mhm.
Um, but ADHD looks different on everyone, but for me, it's, a big part of it has just been sensory processing, overstimulated my environment. And, I think with kids, it's just finding like the right environment, the right teachers. I found teachers that really worked for me, that really loved
Mm.
and understood me. And, just the right environment will make you flourish. So it's just, that's my biggest piece of advice. And I love having ADHD. I think it's super fun. It makes
Mm.
me, I'm honestly, it makes me super funny. I'm a super funny person. People don't get to see that because all I did was cry this year, but I swear I'm funny. I have a really big sense of humor that
Yeah.
sometimes I think people take like quite literally. And I'm like, no, I'm joking when I say half the things I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's my 2 cents. Hopefully I'll get to, hopefully this will just like expose people to like who I am and they'll have a bigger understanding for me and like, understand my background as, you know, someone who has ADHD and these are just like symptoms and,
Mhm.
normal things that any parents that have kids with ADHD like could identify it in 2 seconds if they watch my show. They'd be like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, she definitely has ADHD. Like,
Yeah.
so
Well, I think
yeah.
these are important conversations to have. It all helps to normalize what is going on for so many families out there.
Hmm.
And, the more we talk about people's experiences, the more we can relate to it, the more we can just make it part of, everyday life. And I love that you've been so open and shared so much of your experience. And I'm just, so grateful as a mum of a kid with ADHD to see what this could look like in, 20 years' time for us.
Always, I find that people with ADHD take the most unique like career routes, but they always somehow are successful
Yeah.
because they think outside the box. And
Mm.
I love that for us.
Yeah. And you know what? I think your parents can take so much credit here because they set you up early on to
Yes.
succeed. You know, they were onto it. They were finding what worked for you, and you've
A
been able
hundred
to
percent.
thrive and flourish and find your thing.
Oh,
And
100%.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
all we can do is to give our kids those opportunities and to be in the sports and try new things and get all those experiences and know what works. And
But we're still just kids too. Like you're still like just
yeah,
like your brain's still developing. You're still just like learning. You're still going to be impulsive. You're just more impulsive, and
yeah,
it's like it's definitely a learning curve for everyone. But if I'm just happy that I can give my insight to my experience with it.
yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. And where is the best place for people to follow you and keep up with what's going on?
I'm very big on Instagram. I'm always posting on Instagram daily. I'm like kind of using TikTok now.
Mm-hmm.
My little sister that's 18 says I'm like a millennial, even though I'm not a millennial. I'm not. I'm just not Gen Z.
Yeah.
I'm 1998 baby, and so millennials are
Wow.
anyone born from before 1995, and Gen Z is anyone born after like 2002. So like us 1996 to 2001 babies, like we're just kind of lost in the middle. But she
Yes.
goes like, I mean, like some of your TikToks are good, some of them aren't, and I'm like, I, I, I'm sorry, but Instagram is definitely like I'm always on Instagram. I'm always posting in my stories. I'm definitely always like sharing insights and like my workouts, what I'm eating, my travels, everything I keep up on there.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I will put the link to your Instagram in the show notes. And Emmy, I cannot thank you enough for your time. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, and I cannot
As
wait.
same with you.
Thank you. I cannot wait to see what happens next season. Let's bring on the Emmy redemption season.
Yes, please. Fingers crossed. You and my mom both have the same idea.
Yeah, bring it on.
It's been
Oh,
so
thank
awesome
you.
talking with you. You are so lovely. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. So did I. Let's do it
Love
again
that.
sometime.
Absolutely. Maybe this time next year.
I would love that.
Oh, yeah. Be awesome.
All right. Thanks, Emmy.